Hello, everybody. My name is Birdie, and welcome to Birdie Speaks. And this show, we're gonna have so many different perspectives on so many subjects, and it's a pleasure to have you. And thanks for watching. This is our first show on this channel, and I want to produce this show because I want to address some of the narrative and talking points that from both parties. Right? Let's start with the notion of voting. We're going to start with the notion of voting first, and we'll touch on both parties, some of the tactics that I think they have been using, which they are still using. I don't think those tactics are going to be so effective anymore because they've used it, they've exaggerated, and because of that, they've created a lack of trust starting from the media and the politicians. All right. So the notion of voting, I want to clarify this because I'm going to elaborate a little more as I progress. Okay. The notion of voting is the right to either vote or not voting at all. Right? Is the right to vote for whoever I want to vote for. Right? Now, some of the tactics that I want to address is, let's start with the Democratic Party. They tend to tell us, and this has been going on for the past few election cycles, where they would tell you, hey, if you vote for that person, it's like as if you give away your vote. It's like as if it's a wasted vote. No. If I want to vote for someone, it's because I believe in the ideas and the policies. So technically, it's like as if you're telling me I don't understand who to vote for, right? And I'm saying this because let's call it for what it is. The Democratic Party, they would first tell you if you vote for example, someone like Jill Stein, they will tell you it's a wasted vote, or they would tell you it's a vote for Donald Trump. When in reality, in democracy, you want to vote for whoever you want to vote for. That's the whole thing about democracy. That's the beauty of it. I vote for someone, okay? And it's the duty and responsibility of whoever's running for that office to convince me, to give me something to vote for. I'm saying this, I get a little passionate when I start talking about those stuff. I want to touch on our current vice president who's running, Kamala Harris, who's running for president at this moment. Let's start by stating the obvious, okay? No one voted for her. No one. What we know, the last time she was picked by President Biden and she ran, as a running mate, well, I guess it was a Biden-Harris ticket. Yeah, in a way. But now we're talking about a new process. You have the Democratic Party. If you know for sure that Mr. Trump is so bad, ex-President Trump, former President Trump was so bad, weren't you supposed to go above and beyond and do your due diligence to present to us the best candidate? Right? It's like as if what they do, they know well, way before that President Biden wouldn't be able to run, to stay in the race. They knew it. Well, we all kind of suspected it. We couldn't confirm it until that debate. But I don't think that was a surprise to anybody. Right? Let's be real. If anything, we didn't realize if it was that bad. Okay? So you have President Biden dropping out of the race. Okay? And I want to touch on the vice president again at the time, even before then. The whole thing was about her not being popular. I think there was a poll where it revealed that she was the most unpopular vice president in recent history. Okay? Now, how did we go from that to now we have her running for president, right? Okay. So President Biden dropped out of the race. So I would expect the Democratic Party to have a legit process where they would go through a process and then make sure the best candidate would be picked, right? That's not what they did. They just picked her knowing well what some of the flaws are. Now, let's be real, okay? I disagree when people, from the other party try to disrespect her, calling her dumb. No, she's a very intelligent woman. Absolutely. But the issue is, I believe, again, based on my opinion, I believe she's a bad candidate. And why? For a defense, it's not all her fault. I'm gonna tell you why. She never got tested. Okay? When was the last time she ran for something nationally? Well, we can remember back in 2020. She did, and then she dropped out of the race. She couldn't even win her own state. Remember that? So now, of course, it's harder for her because even after being picked, remember it was about a month or a month and a half, she was nowhere to be found because they had the momentum and no interview was being conducted with her or whatsoever because she was riding on that excitement back then. And you had President Trump. I'm going to touch on him later, but let's start with Vice President Harris. So at that point, you ask yourself, and the media and everybody, someone went from the least popular vice president to the new darling of the Democratic Party. Okay? So the reason I'm touching on these points is just to give you perspective of where we're from and where we are. Again, we just one day away from we are hours away from the election. Okay? And by the time you watch this video, it's going to be the day of or probably after the election. And then that's going to take me to the point where I want to share with you, and so many of you out there who feels like I don't have anybody to vote for, and I'm tired of voting against someone. So I don't want to vote for Democrat. I don't want to vote for Republican. But you know what? I think I'll just sit this one out. And I know and I understand the frustration because at some point I'm there too. Okay? Somewhat. You have people telling you, well, you know what? I just don't trust her. And what's playing against her is, you know what? If you have all those nice ideas, how come now you want to share those ideas? I'm talking about the vice president, right? How come now, why haven't you talked to the president about, have you floated some of those ideas around the president? And second, you realize the vice president was asked, is there anything you would do differently compared to what President Biden's administration has been? And her answer was, quote, there's not something that I can think of at the moment. Okay? Yeah, I know. She tried to do some cleanup, but we all knew exactly it's hard for her to distance herself from President Biden. She's been governing with President Biden for over 3.5 years now. Okay, almost 4 years. Okay. Now, let's get to the point where I say she has not been tested. And in her defense, it's not her fault. You have former President Trump attacking her, right? Now, because nationally she hasn't been tested with any major race like this, it's hard for her to counter some of those attacks because it's something new to her. Yes, when she's well prepared, we saw what she did at the debate, which was great. But some people have it naturally. When something happens, they would have the right answer to provide right at the moment, which she's not that person. Okay? So now let's talk about the Republican side with Mr. Trump. Okay? I think what is important to point out is discipline. And Mr. Trump is a great candidate. Okay? Now, whether you agree with him or not, but the man is a great candidate with one major flaw. His flaw is that it's hard for him to stay disciplined. It's hard for him to stay on the message. Okay? So from time to time he would say something stupid. Yeah, of course. That's what he believes. But again, the Democratic Party, instead of focusing on the issues, okay, they start with the name calling. Most of the Trump voters, they don't care about what he says anymore. Most of them, if not all of them. Because you know what they would tell you? They would tell you, hey, you know what? I may not like the way he sounds, but you know what? We saw how he governed, and a lot of stuff that he says, he like to say outrageous stuff, but he never follows suit. That's what they would tell you. And I think one mistake the Democratic Party has been making, they are still making, is the fact that they still haven't realized why so many people are voting for Trump. So many people, regardless of his behavior, they just don't care. They vote for him a lot of times as a middle finger to the party. Not only to the Republican Party, but to the establishment. And they feel like, you know what, so many promises, nothing has been done. You know what, I have this guy, he sounds different, he acts different. So you know what, I might as well just vote for him, whether you like him or not. That's my position. Now you may call him ignorant and all those stuff, yeah. But we need to understand the reason why they are voting for Mr. Trump. They are voting for Mr. Trump because the Democratic Party and even the candidates, they fail to acknowledge what the people are going through out there. They are suffering. It's like they are suffering, and you have the Democratic Party with power, with the presidency, and now all of a sudden, they don't want to acknowledge some of the issues. For instance, you fail to understand why they are voting for him. They are desperate. You may say, you know what, this guy is lying. Well, at least he's lying, but he's offering something. Remember back in the days when Hillary Clinton was running for president? The whole thing was about it's either you're with her and it was her time to break the glass ceiling and all those stuff. And then Trump was out there promising people, although now, and I'm going to touch on that part as well, a bunch of stuff that he promised, he didn't even attempt to do anything about them. For example, healthcare. Well, as much as you may hate it, well, you know what? The Republican Party tried its best. They tried their best to take down Obamacare. But you realize Trump was promising at the time, you know what? We're going to get rid of Obamacare and then we're going to replace it with something so beautiful, everybody will be covered. That's what he promised. But I can't recall a time where he came up with something and said, hey, you know what? We have something. Again, I'm just calling the hypocrisy from both parties. Okay? So another one, for example, when the Democratic Party, okay, they would tell you what a president says matter, right? Because, you know, former President Trump, he likes saying a bunch of outrageous stuff, right? Crazy stuff, he would say. And I remember recently, President Biden, I think he made a comment. I'm paraphrasing that. Uh, all the Trump supporters are garbage, right? Remember that comment? And then what I felt like is like the outrage from the Democratic Party that I used to get whenever President Trump would say something crazy. I didn't feel it. What they did, they defended what President Biden said. Okay? So on the other side, you have President Trump himself telling people, hey, you know what? I don't believe the American people, half of the American people are garbage, right? And then you start seeing those, the fake outrage from the Republican Party. And then they started making, you know what? We can't have a president saying stuff like that and all those stuff. So again, I'm just pointing the hypocrisy from both sides, which leads me to this point that I want to make, okay? If you get to a point where you feel like, you know what, it's not worth it, I'm going to sit this one out and I'm not going to vote, okay? Ask yourself this question. When you wake up on Wednesday morning, who will you be comfortable with when the decision is going to be made by us to be the next president? How are you going to feel? Are you going to have any regret for not voting? If you feel you can live with that decision, then that's fine. Don't vote. But if you feel like you might have any regret, please do something about it. Voting is a transaction. Is what you give me and what am I expecting for what I'm giving you, which is the vote. Unfortunately, both parties, mostly the Democratic Party, have been pushing us toward voting against someone. They haven't given us someone to vote for the past couple of election cycles. Unfortunately, if and only if Vice President Kamala Harris loses this election, you know who's gonna be blamed for it. Most of us are gonna be blamed for it. They're gonna tell us you failed to vote so we could get her elected, and that's why you have Trump. While they don't realize they are the ones who didn't give us a candidate to vote for. Give us a candidate that can explain, that can articulate her policies. Give us a candidate where I feel like I don't need the Obamas to explain to us what her policies are and why we should vote for her. We don't need the Obamas to lecture us, okay? Especially us black people. When we told, you know what, we should vote for it, it's like as if just because she's black, we're supposed to vote for her automatically. No, we need someone to vote for. We don't want to vote against someone. Well, for sure, after the election, I will be coming back and sharing with you some of my views and something that I've wanted to do for so long. And now that I start, I'm not going to stop anytime soon. And let's agree to disagree. Let me know what you think in the comment below. And if you find value in this video, please subscribe, like, and share. All right? Again, my name is Birdie. Until next time.